Hey everybody, this is Perch. So what's a franchise? Because I'm seeing a lot of people lately talk about, they want their comic book to be a franchise, but then they're doing things that are kind of the opposite of a franchise or what a traditional franchise would be. And so I thought it might be worth at least defining a little bit better, what is a franchise exactly? Because I think a lot of what you're doing is the opposite of, of defining a franchise. I you know I get why people would want to have a franchise in comics. The idea is that it is something that you can continue to draw money from, that you could eventually license and do things with. It's a big deal from a marketing campaign. So let me give you. I'm going to give you the definition. There's a lot of definitions of a franchise, by the way, but this one is probably the most relevant here. And it is a series of related works, such as novels or films, each of which includes the same characters or different characters that are understood to exist and interact in the same fictional universe with characters from the other works. In other words, a shared universe to some extent, basically an area where you could sell a property and you could get, a lot of different things out of it, for mileage out of it. So things that are franchises include Star Wars, Star Trek, Indiana Jones is arguably a franchise. James Bond is definitely a franchise. Spider-Man is franchise. Batman is a franchise. And there's franchises within franchises. You could say that the Marvel Universe is a franchise. And then Spider-Man is a franchise within that franchise. And so you can kind of narrow it down. But maybe the bigger question is, what makes a successful franchise? How do you actually get that rolling? And the answer to that is actually fairly simple, and it's frustratingly simple. It's make something that appeals to as many people as humanly possible. If you want to have a franchise, you need a lot of people to pick it up, and you need a lot of people to recommend it to others, and you need to be able to not just do marketing to promote your own work, but basically have word on the street or word of mouth for your project or your property to occur. Because part of the definition of franchise, it wasn't what I read you, but part of what a lot of is the accepted definition is that it's something that becomes self-sustaining. Meaning, if you stop marketing it, you stop advertising for it, your fan base, your readers, your viewers, whatever it happens to be, will continue to spread the gospel, and you basically get, marketing for free. That's kind of the true definition of a franchise. So, you know, how do you get there exactly? Well, again, it's in kind of what I mentioned. It's reaching the widest audience possible. And this is the area where I think people kind of screw up franchise, or rather, they want to use the word, but they don't want to accept the consequences of that word. So things that include there are ideas like, if you're James Bond, the James Bond, you could argue, is really geared toward male marketing fan, or sorry, male adventure fans. It's marketed toward male adventure fans. However, plenty of women like James Bond, plenty of people who liked adventure like James Bond, plenty of people who liked high budget movies like James Bond. There's a lot of elements of a fan base that like these characters and will enjoy them, but they appeal to this common core, which is, do you like adventure movies? Do you like spy movies? Do you like thriller movies? And yes, it primarily appeals to a male demographic, but that's a wide audience. It's big enough that you can become a franchise with that. Similarly, if you think about Batman or Spider-Man, you're looking at, so you're looking at an audience like superhero heroic, some action, some adventure, some serialized storytelling, some soap opera type drama in terms of what's going on with the character. And once again, you're probably looking at a predominantly male audience for Spider-Man. Now, this doesn't mean that if a woman comes along, you say, sorry, ma'am, we are not going to take your money. We are looking for men here and only men. Of course not. You're going to take whoever comes to you, but you steer and you market your franchise based across, people who like adventure movies. And you have to ultimately pick. Look, you're not going to go, hey, it's a guy like James Bond, fans of westerns. So let's go out. Let's go to places that sell cowboy boots and cowboy hats, and let's advertise Spider-Man because fans of westerns are going to like Spider-Man. Right? Said nobody ever, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And so you can kind of go down the list, and there's lots of different genres, there's lots of different groups, there's lots of different people you appeal to. And generally, when you create something that's going to be a franchise, you figure out a couple of those groups and you try and make that bubble as wide as possible. So, for example, if you're going to do a Western, well, the audience for Westerns is small right now, but if you could make it a Western adventure spy thriller, okay, now you're kind of onto something. And maybe if you put in an actor who is known for kind of different roles, like you throw in a Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio, okay, then that actor is going to pull in a lot of people who don't normally go to those movies. And you basically do a marketing campaign that says, do you like Westerns? Do you like action? Do you like a little bit of mystery? Do you like Leonardo DiCaprio? Cool. If you're somebody who likes one of those things, then you should come watch this movie. Maybe you like all four of those things. But regardless, they don't really care about that part. All you need to do is like one of those things. So you made the bubble big enough to bring a lot of people into it. So why am I giving you all this explanation? To me is pretty self-obvious. I mean, I think everybody realizes this, is as a comic creator, when you're building a comic, you have to kind of decide, are you trying to create a franchise, or are you doing a personal art project where you want to make some money, of course, but the idea of licensing off this universe is, you have to kind of widen the net. And so I don't want to go into, there's a comic creator in the UK who's gay, who specializes in a lot of gay comic books. And he's frequently commenting on how, this should be a franchise. And I'm willing to take movie offers, except nobody's going to give you a movie offer because your project appeals to a very narrow set. First of all, you market it entirely as a queer book. That is the number one, number two, and number 50 thing on any marketing you do. So again, there's nothing wrong with attracting an LGBTQIA audience. You could do that all day long if you like. However, you're not building a franchise at that point. And that's kind of the big takeaway here is you can claim to want something, but unless you take active steps to actually create that thing you want or promote that thing you want, you're not going to get very far. You need to actively solicit that bigger audience, which in this case, if you're trying to get a franchise or major property, means going as wide as humanly possible. Everything you narrow into is a potential source of a loss of audience. So, for example, if you're going to do a Western and you love Westerns, and you are going to do this Western, and you are also going to make it an LGBTQ A plus film. All right, so now you've got a Western, which is a fairly small audience these days in terms of popularity, and you're going to appeal it to a queer audience, which is an equally a small audience. And so now you're taking a small. Now you're basically, where these all cross over is your market. So you're basically going to do a queer Western book, which means you have to find people who enjoy reading queer characters and people who enjoy reading Westerns. And you could layer on top of that people who enjoy reading comic books, people who have not just turned all to games and movies. And what you find is where all these circles overlap, it starts to get pretty damn small. This doesn't mean you can't do the project. It means you are not building a franchise. You're not building something that appeals to a wide audience. You're building something that appeals to a very narrow audience. And, you could say that's bad, but it's kind of one of those don't hate the player, hate the game kind of scenarios. It just is what it is. If you want to create a major franchise, then you're going to have to appeal to a wide audience. You're going to appeal to a wide audience, you're going to have to make some compromises potentially to your vision. If you don't want to do that, cool, make your project, but don't pretend that you're creating some big franchise. All make sense? Hope so. Anyway, that's a franchise. That's how you create it. That's how you market to it. And now thanks for listening.